Yo guys, welcome back to another video. Today, I wanted to talk about whether or not we should consider having a Paragon cap in Season 28. A lot of people have very strong opinions about this topic, and I'm really conflicted, so I kind of just wanted to go over a list of pros and cons that I had put together and kind of get some of your thoughts down in the comments down below. So I'm going to start with some of the pros, and the first one being, and this one is major, bots would be less effective. Bots and people who are account sharing are running their characters 20 or more hours a day and getting so far ahead of everybody else in Paragon levels to the point where really competing for a top spot on the leaderboards feels so unrealistic. Adding a Paragon cap would definitely get the more skillful players to the top of the leaderboards, and we would have to worry less about people who are cheating. I also feel like this is going to add a bit more incentive for people to run bounties. Currently, I feel like the meta for Diablo 3 is maybe some bounties in the early season, and then beyond that, you're kind of just spamming GRs for Paragon levels, and it would be nice to have a bit more incentive to go and do those bounties if we actually had a cap on Paragon levels, because once we hit that, we could just kind of focus on re-rolling and optimizing our gear. One other thing that I really love about a Paragon cap is it kind of brings the game back to the core of action RPGs, where the point is to focus on getting optimized gear and not necessarily just ignoring gear and going so hard to get all these Paragons. While playing in groups, it feels like it would also incentivize a bit more focus on loot sharing as opposed to just ignoring the loot at the end so that we can get back into more GRs and go faster and faster. This might allow us to maybe communicate a little bit more and actually focus on optimizing each other's gear while we're kind of playing in these teams together. Although people already do this, at a certain point, towards the end of the season, we are kind of just ignoring that gear and just going faster and faster in those GRs. And so it would be nice to maybe slow down, talk a little bit, share a bit more gear just to optimize our characters. Now, before we move into the cons, something that I couldn't necessarily decide if it was a pro or a con is the fact that adding a Paragon cap is kind of reverse power creep. The power level of our characters these days is absolutely insane. These monks that are playing Wave of Light can be like speed farming GR 140, sometimes even a little higher. So in that regard, I feel like reverse power creep is not a bad idea because it feels easier than ever to push for these GR 150s, and it would be nice if it was maybe a little bit more difficult. Adding a Paragon cap would absolutely achieve that goal. But at the same time, while we're playing games, we progressively want to get a greater sense of power. We want to constantly be feeling progression, and this kind of does slow that down. And so I'm really having a hard time categorizing whether or not it's a pro or con to have some reverse power creep. But let's go ahead and dive into some of the cons now. And the first one, and this is huge, I remember when the game had a Paragon level cap of 100, and when I hit it, I pretty much instantly quit the game. Gear in Diablo 3 comes so quickly, and we can get to at least a good point of power relatively fast, and by adding this Paragon cap, it just kind of feels like there might not be as much to do other than just constantly trying to push for the highest GR that you can. Maybe for a lot of people that's fun, but I kind of enjoy the element of a season where I'm constantly just speed farming and going through content as fast as I can. We already have an issue with people coming into Diablo 3 for a new season, playing for maybe 1 to 3 weeks, and then calling it quits. They've got the gear that they want, and that's kind of it. Adding a Paragon cap kind of almost incentivizes that maybe a little bit more, because once they've got the gear, if they hit the cap, what's really left to do other than just trying to push? And not necessarily everybody enjoys that. I really want this season to keep us entertained leading up to Diablo 4 so that a lot of people stay engaged in Diablo games leading up to the launch of 4 to kind of add a little bit more hype. And adding this cap may just incentivize people to quit earlier and not really stay committed to Diablo leading up to D4. Another con that I've kind of found just going through forums and reading people's opinions about this topic is that nobody seems to agree on what the cap should be. The largest forum that I could find actually recommended a Paragon cap of 800, which seems incredibly low. We hit that Paragon level so fast that I just don't feel like that would keep us entertained for very long. We would get there, we'd get decent gear, and we'd be done. But other people are saying like 5K, and there's a lot of people who really can't commit that much time to get to Paragon 5K. And then, of course, everything in between was recommended by somebody else too, and there just seems to be a lot of debate around what that cap should actually be. And for all those non-season players out there, adding a Paragon cap to the season would harm our ability to roll over Paragons at the end of the season so that we can get a bit more power on our non-season characters. I don't really play much non-season, but at the end of a season, it is kind of nice to see what my non-season Paragon level becomes, because I get this nice little jump in power and I can kind of test out my characters that just have a ton more Paragon levels than I've ever got to play with before. What I think the bottom line is that we need this season to keep us entertained for more than just a few weeks. Maybe if they are going to add this Paragon cap, gear should be a little bit harder to get. I don't know if that starts with removing Hadrig's gift or not, because I'm sure that would cause a lot of debate in the community as well. Ultimately, the idea of a Paragon cap just seems a little bit controversial, but I would like to know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. I've read a lot on the forums, but I know that a lot of people who watch my videos are very good at Diablo 3 and really have some good ideas, and so I'd really like to get maybe a little bit more perspective on this topic. So go ahead and drop a comment down below. Should there be a Paragon cap in Season 28? Beyond Season 28, should that just be something that remains in the game? Go ahead and let me know what your reasoning is as well. But guys, I really appreciate you for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.